I am making a game with a bunch of people from my school about autopsying insects. Right now, it is still in alpha, so it is full of bugs. And no, not the cute kind. It's a psychological horror autopsy sim where the patients are six-legged and the secrets are, well, still being written. So in Entomortis, you start this new job, and while the days go by, you start to notice stranger things happening. This idea started out really randomly. We were required to make a game for school, and this guy on my team saw this other guy on my team's art about insects. And from there, he deduced that, yo, we should make a turn-based game with insects fighting against infected insects. Far from what the game would eventually come to be, I know. After we fleshed out the mechanics of the game, I was not that enthusiastic about it since I'm not really a big fan of turn-based. Let alone the scope of this game was huge considering that we'd supposedly be making it in the span of 3 months and these guys had never made a game before. However, one day I walked into class, hit up a conversation with them and they told me we're changing our game. What? Sign me up. So he basically pitched to me this Surgeon Simulator-esque mortuary assistant game, and I was sold. Play as a mortician autopsying insects, and things get weirder every day. Simple but cool. The only issue was, for a while we did not know what exactly that weirder thing would be, and to be honest, maybe we still don't really know. We pretty much set that aside for now and just left the mystery to be uncovered to be ambiguous. Whether it was a possible entity, the bugs retaliating, or secret government activities below the lab, we were open to wherever direction this game went. So we got to work on our game, had a bunch of placeholder art, got our first insects, and this was what we had for 2 weeks. Before I said, yo, screw this, boom, 3D. At the rate we were producing art, we only had one artist, a 2D game would not have been viable, and it was better this way, because the table could actually feel like you were in a PC game autopsying insects as opposed to a flash game you could find on Y8, and this 3D shift was pretty large. I basically kept it as a surprise to the team at first, actually. Guys, I am cooking something up. It doesn't have to be final, but I have a vision. And basically grinded for a day to pitch this 3D version of Entomortis to them. I implemented everything into a 3D space, the scalpel, magnifying glass, folder. Boom! They loved it. The next few weeks were spent debugging, adding features into our game, like the guidebook or the syringe, and I really enjoyed it. Though the deadline was getting closer and we still only had 3 cases up, that's including the grape, so we had a mantis and a tarantula as well, and that's when our project head decided we'd just chalk it up to a demo, where the game ends on a short note promising a better future, which I was on board with, and anyway, it's what a lot of the other devs did. So in the span of 3 months, our game evolved from this 2D flash-looking game to a beautiful 3D game with so much juice and love poured into it. So I learned a lot from this project. For one, distribute tasks based on team members. We had one artist, but he was always busy working on other stuff that for the entire 3 months we basically only got 5 art sprites. The grape, mantis, tarantula, beetle, and moth. And so our game went from this procedural, randomized insect system to a linear, narrative-driven experience. 2. Plan the story ahead. As a programmer, I wasn't in charge of the story, but for the entire 3 months, we pretty much had only very little progress towards what the story would flesh out to be, and that was a big wall I had to climb as a programmer, because I didn't even know what direction this game was going in. Like, at some point I started to pitch scare ideas because nobody else really was, and so I was like, hey guys, what if at some point there's like a guy at the table watching you, and he goes away when you see him, taking big inspiration from the mortuary assistant. And he was like, ooh, you're right. And that could be like a nod to the previous scientist's ghost. And I was like, oh, so we really are just making this as we go. And last but not the least, enjoy it. Put yourself out there. In the 6 months where I started my game dev journey, it's been nothing but putting myself into many projects and not really committing to a single one. Because in the early stages, if you are like me, you need to dip your shoes into everything. Because there is so much to learn out there. Join game jams, find random team members, just create. And don't get too attached to one game, especially when you're just starting out. Trust me, it takes a second to accept, but you can't really make the best game you can the first time around. Like, this was literally the first game I made with my close friend at our first ever game jam, and it's so devoid of any mechanics. And then this was the second game jam I ever attended, and we'd made a 3D puzzle-involved game surrounding fairy tales, also chalked up to a demo, which we didn't win anything for. And then this was our latest game jam, which we won Best Narrative and Best Game of the Jam for, but that's a story for another time. I basically went from making this to winning the best game of the school term just by forcing myself to learn and building smaller projects. If you're a student or an aspiring dev, Don't get married to your first idea, get married to the process. If you want to follow my game dev stuff, I'll be posting more about my future game dev endeavors here, and this was just a general video to sort of quickly skim over what's been happening in my life for the past 3 months, and to sort of introduce myself. So if you ever want to collaborate on anything, I am a good old game dev as it currently stands. If you want to work with me, just hit me up through my email. See ya!